we come to the bit which is really interesting. I want to spend a couple minutes on this if we can. Let me tell the audience a little bit of what I know about you. So you are a very successful entrepreneur. You are dyslexic. You have gone through some family trauma and upheaval in your family circumstances. What, to our young audience, especially listening to this, what kind of tips would you say that you've learned along the way in your journey in particular?
When I was at school, I had no idea. Going into sixth form, I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. So I didn't have an aspiration to be an entrepreneur or go into business. I just simply enjoyed the moment. And then when I left, I was just by chance was lucky enough to, the first door I knocked on almost, asking, have you got any jobs? I'll be leaving school shortly. And the lady there asked me, what I enjoyed doing, asked me a bit about me. And out of that, she garnered a bit of information that she felt had a good fit with a role that was coming up. And it was a kind of a sales role, demonstration role within this business. When I arrived from the first day of work, they put me in an office and they left me there for quite a while. Like I'm talking about turning up to the office then after that every day and just being left in the office pretty much on my own. But I very quickly realised that if I didn't add value, then why should they keep me? So I thought I better try different things and I'll have a go at this and I'll do. And I found myself doing telesales. I just asked them, have you got a list of customers? Yeah, do you ever sell to those customers on the phone? Just common sense stuff, really. And that's how my career started. But what drove me at that point was the owner of the company one day pulled over to the roadside. I was walking along the pavement. He pulled over and he said, you work for me, don't you? And he was in his Bentley, and it was this most beautiful Bentley. And I said, yeah. He said, jump in, I'll give you a lift for the rest of the way to work. Now, I'd just walked about a mile. The closest bus stop was about a mile away. So I got the bus into work and then walked the rest of the way. It was a horrible morning, the thick snow. And when that snow turns to black sludge, it's all over the bottom of my trousers. And when I got into his Bentley, I looked down at his lambswool carpet and I saw this black sludge drip onto it. And the first thing I thought was, he's going to fire me by the end of the day when he sees the mess I've made of his carpet. But the thing was, he was really nice to me. And I got to see him a few times and loved his excitement for new product and product development. And I think that sat with me and I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to do product that I can get excited by. So I'm going to have to have a hand in that like he does long term. And I want the riches that go with being successful because I came from a very modest background. And one of the drivers for me was my brother was born handicapped or actually at the age of 5. He became properly handicapped when he had a stroke and teachers hadn't realised and he stayed all day at school. And since that point, he was bullied and no way could he hold down a job. So and my mum and dad being, not having much money, I thought it's incumbent on me to look after my brother for the rest of his life and probably to look after my parents too as they get older. So I'm going to have to work hard, and that became my driver. That was my hunger to earn money to make sure that not just I was looked after, but I looked after them. And then if there's anything left and I could, was successful, then maybe one day I could have that Bentley. So that was the initial drivers, and I hadn't realised I was dyslexic. So through school, even at the early stages of work, it wasn't until I had my kids, and they all got tested some at different times of their life, but usually much later as well. And it found out they were highly dyslexic, but then I found out that I was as well. And that's why I can't do certain things that other people find very easy, but I can do other things. And maybe I've had to work my brain harder on those other areas that really lean towards the creative side that have helped me massively. And along the way, as an entrepreneur, you get the highs and the lows. It's not like that. It definitely isn't like that. It's a rocky road. The lows are horrible. The highs are like nothing else. And I suppose you hope that when you count everything up at the end of the day, you're more up than you are down
Yeah.
in every area.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's a glimpse of stuff, and then along that journey, all sorts of things have happened.
That's amazing. What a story. And that experience you had in that Bentley, your boss at the time, typical British horrible winter's day, that is something that we had a conversation about at the foundation actually around, wouldn't it be amazing to start a movement where CEOs like yourself could actively give those experiences to other young people? So we're coming up with some terms, but maybe like a co-CEO where a young person would literally shadow you and be part, like not an internship, but like a C-level internship.
Interesting, so I was definitely inspired by that CEO, by his excitement, by his acute awareness of what he felt the consumers would want. Again, before any market research was done, and again because he was always looking around, and he was probably, his filing cabinet inside his brain, full of different things that came together to come up with some great ideas. And he always led with the ideas, and they became very, very big selling products. So yes, I think bringing young people in, and even if it's not shadowing the CEO, if it's sometimes having glimpses of when that CEO is working in different areas and seeing, what could be, so that kid thinks, is that maybe one day what I want or not? It may not be. It might make them feel that's definitely not what I want to do, and that can be also a good thing. Saving time. The other thing is, I remember being asked about from another boss I had early in my career, who similarly was a very successful entrepreneur, made a lot of money, and at the age of 23, 24, so it's my second company I worked for, he called me in the office, and a couple of learnings actually. And one learning was, he said to me, what do you want to do when you get older? And I said, I think I want my own business like you, Mike. And he said, well, a bit of advice. And this guy's now 55, at this time rather, he was 55, and he's very wealthy, very successful businessman, worth a couple £100 million at 55. And he said, I'll give you a bit of advice. I didn't start this company until I was 46. So don't think that you have to start a business from leaving school or from leaving university or very, very early in your career. It can happen. The right idea, the right opportunity can happen at any time. So that was a good piece of advice. And since then, I've always admired people who don't start a business until they're 50, or older, or any age. And the second bit of advice he said to me was, Richard, we sell binoculars, we sell telescopes, we sell cameras. That was the industry we were in. He said, I'd like you to do me a favour. I'd like you to send a catalogue of our latest products to this guy. And I said, Mike, that's our competitor. He said, that's fine. Send it to him so he knows what we're doing, and he'll send us one back. So he's very, very free with relationships, even with his competitors. He was friendly. I suppose that was a case of, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies even closer type of thing. That's not the advice, the best bit of advice. It was what followed was the best bit of advice for me. I said, yeah, Mike, I'll sort that for you. I'll send a catalogue and we'll wait till you want to come back. Is that everything? He said, yeah. And I went to leave. And he said, and then he called me Mr. North. He said, Mr. North, come back. No, because I'm just going out the door. My God, what have I done? He's called me Mr. North. That doesn't sound good. And I put my tail between my legs. I realised I've done something terrible. And he said, I'm a very successful businessman. I'm worth several £100 million. I've been running this business for nearly 10 years. And before that, I worked at the highest level in the FMCG industry, really successful. And I'm listening to this and I'm wondering where it's going. And he said, and to get to this point, I've had to work really hard, but it seems to me that you think you're smarter than I am. And I thought, what's he mean?
What made him say that? Yeah.
What made him say this? And I said, sorry, Mike, I'm lost. He said, well, if somebody asks me to do something, he said, I always write it down. I have to write it down. I always make lists, and I always decide then from that list what I've got to do next. I always prioritize. But you seem to be smarter than me, Mr. North, because you just said, yeah, I'll go and do that. And yet I always find with people that say that 30, 40% of the time they forget that unless you're super, super smart, there's something you know I don't. Why didn't you write it down? And it was a lesson that I learned there. Always, always, if you say you're going to do something, write it down and make sure you check up on yourself. And since then, I've always done lists.